Twizzlers Twisted Gravity is the new for 2025 Screamin swing at Hersheypark. This is a ride the park desperately needed. It immediately became the park's best non-coaster upon opening, and I will explain why in this review. Hersheypark owns one of the best roller coaster collections in the world. They have 14 different roller coasters, including several of which that are world-class experiences. The park also has some notable non-coasters, but they were missing a truly standout flat ride. A lot of parks in recent years have been filling this with a giant frisbee or a Screamin swing. Hershey already had a frisbee ride, albeit a smaller one with the claw, so they instead chose to go the path of the Screamin swing. They opened Twizzlers Twisted Gravity in 2025. This was marketed as the world's tallest ride of its kind, as it reaches a max height of 137 feet or 42 meters. This is just 2 feet taller than Serengeti Flyer at Busch Gardens, Tampa, and Tidal Surge at SeaWorld San Antonio. Now, I do wonder if the three rides are truly identical and Hershey is just manipulating the stats slightly, but all three of them are really big. Hershey's looks particularly imposing though because of its location. It is placed atop a hill overlooking the hollow. Per Google Earth, that platform is roughly 10 meters or 33 feet tall, so you swing out roughly 170 feet or 52 meters above the creek below. If you're viewing the ride from above, it is still a spectacle as the arms swing directly above the midway, so you can look up and see the screams or delight of riders. Then the ride has a visually striking paint scheme. The structure is bright red to match the iconic licorice snack it is named after. Then the accents are blue, which contrasts beautifully with everything else. I also like how it's another ride at the park named after candy. The park was criticized for many years for not leaning more into this, but several of their recent additions have taken advantage of the Hershey IP. There isn't really any theming here, just a stylization, but it gives the ride some character to tie into the sweetest place on Earth. There isn't another park that can name a ride after Twizzlers. The queue consists of a series of long switchbacks alongside the lower midway. Then you have a long staircase up to the ride platform. The queue offers some great views of the ride, but it can be miserable on a hot day due to a lack of shade. The lower part has some umbrellas, but there are gaps in the coverage. Then most of the staircase is exposed. Hopefully the park can improve this in the future seasons with a more permanent shade structure. This ride has a great capacity for a flat ride. It can hold a max of 40 riders per cycle. There are 2 arms. Each arm is 2 rows sitting back to back. Then each of those rows seats 10 riders. For the entire 2025 season, Hersheypark has been running both sides together. Most parks start off operating both sides, but some will reduce the ride down to 1 arm in future seasons, presumably to save on some costs of maintenance and staffing. Hopefully Hershey will keep theirs running at max capacity, especially since this ride appears to be quite popular, and this park definitely draws big crowds. On my summer weekday visits, this ride was peaking at a 30 to 45 minute wait in the early afternoon. I have seen this ride post 90 to 120 minute waits on weekends in the park's app. Now the app's wait times aren't always accurate, but it is clear this ride can and will draw quite the crowd. Thankfully, you can time your rides to avoid the longest waits. If you have the Sweet Start early entry, which you get with certain season passes or hotels, this ride is usually just a 1 to 2 cycle wait max. Then, if you head here immediately after the official park opening, you should find a minimal wait. Now I need to emphasize this needs to be your first stop if you're using this approach, because location near the front of the park means it'll quickly develop a wait. Alternatively, you can head here during the final few hours of the day. I found short waits during the preview times, which is a really cool perk where day ticket holders can show up the day before for 2 hours in the evening. For reference, if the wait is just on the staircase, it shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. If you visit on a particularly busy day, the ride is included in the paid Fast Track Skip the Line service. This brings you directly to the load platform, bypassing the entire wait. It is one of the biggest time savers for the Fast Track program, as a lot of other rides merge so much earlier in the queue. At the end of the queue, you are assigned a seat. This is a smart approach because it avoids the chaos seen in a lot of other Screamin' swings. Usually, it is a free-for-all for all the seats. This causes groups to get split up. So operators either need to move people around, which delays dispatches, or sometimes groups will choose to wait an extra cycle to ride together, leading to empty seats. Either way, the capacity is impacted. Meanwhile, Twisted Gravity usually has all seats filled, and it's done in an orderly and quick fashion. You can request a specific side if you have a preference. I much prefer starting on the side with your back to the creek. This is because you'll be staring directly down at the creek in the max swings, allowing you to fully appreciate that added height. The lap bars are identical to the other Screamin' swings. They're also the same restraint you can find on some of S&S's roller coasters such as Powder Keg at Silver Dollar City, and some of the El Locos like Steel Hog at Indiana Beach. Just note you don't have the shoulder pads like the El Locos. These lap bars swivel from the side, and then they're pushed down to your lap. They are quite comfortable. One notable change here from the other installations is that you do not have the redundant seatbelt on the outside. This further helps speed up dispatches because it's one less thing for the attendants to check. Once secured, the cycle begins. You'll hear the boom of the compressed air. This is something else that really adds to the ride's intimidation factor. It is loud. You know whenever this ride is cycling. The first few swings are mild, getting you up to speed, but it gives you some time to take in the sights at a more leisurely pace. Then, you have the 90-degree swings. These offer a little airtime, but they're just the appetizer for what's to come. Then, you have the main event, the max swings. These are what makes the ride special. You get several seconds of sustained float or airtime at the apex with each pass. It is surreal levitating that long while lying on your back or staring straight at the ground. Most roller coasters give you airtime while you're normal to the ground, so it's a much different sensation here. Then as a bonus, the sights are wonderful. If you're on the side where you start with your back to the hill, you'll be staring down at the creek on those max swings. It is quite freaky with the added height. You don't quite get the same sense of height on the other side, but it's still cool accelerating towards the hollow, only to swing upwards at the last second. I'd say the views are better on this side, it's just less scary. Paired with those negative Gs are some strong positive Gs in the downswings. These are much more noticeable than on the smaller models. In addition, you feel every bit of this ride's 68 mph or 109 km/h top speed. It is such a refreshing breeze. Now the one con with this ride is the short cycle. This plagues the model in general. I believe the limiter is the compressed air tank. Start to finish, the ride takes roughly 1.5 minutes. More impactfully, there are just 6 max swings. While that admittedly is a bit more than some of the Screamin' swings, that is still a rather low figure for a pendulum ride in general. So what would I rate Twizzlers Twisted Gravity? I would give this attraction 8.5 out of 10. This is a great pendulum ride. I love the sheer size of it. You feel every bit of its power in the max swings. You get super sustained airtime at the top, and powerful positive Gs in the downswings. Add in the fun views, particularly if you're on the side staring down at the creek, and this ride stands out compared to most other Screamin' swings. My only real con is the short cycle, which again is a general issue with the model. I think this is probably my third favorite Screamin' swing. In terms of raw power and forces, I think this is the best version, tied with those jumbo ones I mentioned earlier in the SeaWorld chain. I just give the edge to the versions at Lisa Burge and Glenwood Caverns, as those versions have even more memorable locations, i.e. they are perched atop even taller hills. With Glenwood's in particular, it is a far taller hill. And Twizzlers definitely is my favorite flat ride at Hersheypark. More specifically, I think it's the park's best non-coaster. It offers a nice contrast to the park's many roller coasters. Those are my thoughts on Twizzlers Twisted Gravity at Hersheypark. What are your thoughts about this ride? Do you agree it's the park's best non-coaster? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there will be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.